Is Kansas City no longer special?
And that's why we're so excited to be here in Austin, Texas.
When I heard Google Fiber was coming to Austin, I thought, well, of course.
This represents the opportunity for Austin to become the epicenter of a gigabit web world.
We were supposed to be special. Kansas City, Kansas, and later Kansas City, Missouri were to be the chosen ones, the place internet giant Google anointed to be the place to launch its high-speed fiber service to the envy of the rest of the nation. Now, 2 years later, and even though not one local neighborhood has yet been fully hooked up with the ultra-high-speed service, Google announces it's heading to Texas and the tech-savvy city of Austin, where it'll bestow the same promises of amazing gigabit internet speed to that community. But after all the hype behind the Google deal, do Sly James and Joe Reardon feel like jilted lovers this week, Mary Sanchez?
I don't think they feel that. I mean, we always knew this day was coming, that we were not going to have the spotlight forever. But to
Really?
me,
But so soon?
Oh, yeah. No, they knew. They knew. And the thing is, with Google, you never know what they're going to do next because they don't really talk to you a whole lot. But we did know that something was coming, and that there would be another city. And that's not all bad, but it does, I think, put the pressure on Kansas City to really do something now with this. How do we really use to our advantage that head start that we had? And I mean, the argument that I put forth this week was that we really can't put too much stock just in thinking that kind of the build it and they will come, or someone else builds it and they'll come, around entrepreneurs, that, you know, everyone's going to suddenly flock to Kansas City and create the next great thing. You know, I mean, Austin's kind of a cool town. If anyone's ever been to the
But did we expect
Club.
a little bit more exclusivity for a little bit more period of time than this, Stacey?
Well, I think some people might have, but it probably was naive thinking. You saw that animated graphic that shows the internet being, you know, bottled up if there's slow speed to servers. Well, what good does a gigabyte network do if it only expands to the Kansas City metro? Now there will be gigabyte service in Kansas City. There will be gigabyte service in Austin that has a booming technology business. So maybe some of our established businesses and our startups are now able to network with Austin. And as that network grows, it probably leverages us a little bit better. Are we out of the spotlight now? Yeah. Are we off the front lines of the papers for that positive reason? Sure we are. But I don't think it's really a negative at this aspect for us.
So the newspaper this week, the Kansas City Star, talking about, Dave Helling, that it's actually could be a benefit to Kansas City, just like Facebook is not much benefit to people with only a few friends. It takes a lot of friends to have the greatest benefit. A telephone is not much use unless you have a lot of people who have a telephone.
Right. Well, the other thing that's true, the good news really in this announcement is, to me anyway, is it suggests that Google doesn't see this as a toy or as a sidelight, that it really will be a part of their business going forward. And the more cities that have it, Nick, the better, because it becomes an essential part of their business. I think the bad news, and Mary touched on this, or at least the news you have to think about a little bit, is Austin as the next site, not because it's cool or not cool, I assume it's very cool, but it is the home of the University of Texas. And I wrote a column a couple of weeks ago, which, by the way, prompted more than a few angry emails that suggested one of Kansas City's biggest problems is a lack of a substantial world-class university presence. And that, I think, particularly the young people that are involved in that, feed then into a place like Austin, which will create the entrepreneurs that will use things like Google Fiber. I think Kansas City lacks that a little bit, and it may be that Google understood that and agreed with that, and that's why they're going to Austin next.
Well, Dave's dead on, because if you look at the top tech cities in the nation, you see Austin is one with UT there. You see Silicon Valley, you have Cal, Berkeley, and Stanford not far away. You see Boston that has MIT and Harvard. We do lack that, with all due respect to the universities that are here. However, we do have other certain advantages. We have a lower cost of living here. Mm-hmm. We have great infrastructure for businesses in terms of access to the highways, access to manufacturing that some of those other cities may lack. So I think when we look back over this, the criticism for Kansas City may be knowing that this was going to be a short window. We didn't know if it would be a year. We didn't know if it would be 5 years. Did we move fast enough to try to get startups and established businesses on board and figure out a way to use the gigabyte advantage to our advantage? And I don't know that we did that.
And one of the concerns early on, Eric Weston, was that there would be this digital divide. We were going to be trying to heal that digital divide in Kansas City with Google coming to town. Did a lot of those concerns go away that we saw early on, that somehow we weren't going to be serving, say, the east side of Kansas City as a result of that?
No, those concerns didn't go away. They just became more prominent so that people realize that a lot of homes in the urban core don't have a computer, so it was the purpose of getting it. And a lot of people can go to the library. The cost was a problem for people in the urban core as well. But I think that Kansas City should have taken advantage for the head start that they had, like Stacy has said. And so now, where do we go? We've got UMKC. That's a world-class university as well. So I don't, it remains to be seen on how the city responds to it.
The other concern that I had from the Star reporting this week was that the Google also operating a little bit in the dark here. They refused to reveal how many households they've even hooked up. The company won't say, Mary Sanchez, how many customers have its service. Why the secretiveness?
It's part of their brand. It's just part of how they announce things in their different ways. Everything's put up on a tweet feed or a blog post or something like that. We've just learned to deal with it. That's fine. I don't care. I think it's a good thing that they chose Kansas City. I'm more concerned about not so much how Google operates, but what we do with what they have offered to us.
Go ahead.
And one of the things that I've always been concerned with was how it's going to perform. Because with that much data going into a system, it's like putting a golf ball through a straw. Is it going to be too much information for the system? And so how do you work the bugs out now in Kansas City and Kansas and then perfect it as you go to Austin and other places that the program is going to go?
Google has never handled customer service, and so that's one of the things that people look to for the future when it really gets out there. I mean, they're not used to having to take phone calls from an angry customer who, something's wrong with it. But again, that's all the things that we don't really need to be concerned about now. It's more about thinking really outside of the box. What can we do with this, with all the massive amenities that Kansas City does have?
But I think Mary's asking a very important question, and a question that I think leads to a little bit of a break for the Kansas City area, and that is no one really knows what to use this extra bandwidth for. So when you say, well, we should have taken advantage, well, what does that mean? What could we have done? That's really something that the entrepreneurial class and the technological class will have to sort of answer. And it's not really our fault that we don't know what to do with all this good stuff other than bring television or whatever, because no one knows that yet. And that's why, again, Austin, I think, is key. They'll help us understand that, and then the infrastructure, the backbone will be here, and we'll go from there.